welcome to another edition, another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I'm Karen E. Osborne, your host, and I have such a fun and smart and engaging guest, Lynn Katz. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let me tell you a little bit about Lynn, and then she'll tell you about herself. If you've been following this series, you know how it goes. What I liked, I was looking to see, she's the author of The Surrogate, and it came out last year, the same time that Tangled Lies came out, as a matter of fact, just a couple of months difference. And this is what one reviewer said, and I love this. This story had me on the edge of my seat. It was full of menace, threat, and suspense. I will certainly be looking out for more books from this author. Doesn't that sound cool? The Surrogate. So let's go back a little though before we talk about The Surrogate. Let's go back into your childhood or your teen years or your early 20s, wherever you want to go, and just tell us a little bit about the kind of reader you were. What were you reading then? What grabbed you as a young person?
I have to say that I was more of a daydreamer than a reader when I was young. Really, I just had this fantasy world in my head, But I remember getting hooked, really, really hooked on reading with Nancy Drew, with the Nancy Drew series. I could not get enough of them, and of course, I always loved Charlotte's Web, which made me cry, and Stuart Little, and those classics. But I didn't really become an avid reader until later in my life. Yeah.
I love that you said you were a daydreamer, because that's what I was too. I was making up stories early on. I was imagining myself in different lands and different places and doing different things. So that was the writer in you trying to come out at a young age. So tell us a little bit, right?
Daydreaming is writing. It's like pre-writing, right? It's
pre-writing, that's right. So following that thread, tell us about your writing journey. So there you were, daydreaming all the time. When did you actually pick up pen and paper?
Okay, well, I mean, I loved writing poetry when I was growing up, but I have had many different careers in my life, and I never thought I could write an entire novel. That was a scary prospect. So I would write poems and short pieces and essays and that kind of thing. But I used to be a teacher, and then I was a school principal for 13 years. And you cannot be a school principal and write a novel at the same time. I don't care who you are, because it's quite an undertaking. But I loved doing that, and I didn't start writing my novel until I retired. And I really did use a lot of my experiences as an educator to drive my writing, to inspire my writing.
Yeah, we have that in common, that we both had busy careers, and somehow writing just didn't fit in with that. But we never stopped daydreaming and writing short pieces until we had some time to write. So what is your writing method? Like to get The Surrogate out, were you writing a certain number of, are you a goal setter, or did you just, what happened?
Yes. Well, I am such a goal setter, but I am not an outliner. So I'm a pantser with goals. Okay. I had a premise for my book, but I didn't know how it was going to end. I just knew how it was going to start, and I understood the character. And I gave myself the goal of writing 1,000 words a day, which some days went really quickly. Like, an hour, I would just sit down in the morning because I knew exactly what I wanted to write. And other days I'd have to keep going back to the computer. I'd give myself breaks, and it would take a long time. But I promised myself 5 days a week, 1,000 words a day. And that's how I got the first draft written.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you made your goals.
Yeah.
Yes,
'Cause
I
they
don't outline either.
I don't outline. I kind of I envy people who can do that and know where
Yes.
they're going, but I just know I don't know what the characters are going to do, and they surprise me, and that's how I get a lot of twists and turns in my novels. I believe.
I just had lunch today with a fellow writer, and I asked her how her work in progress was going. And she said, it's so annoying. I want my characters to go this way, and they keep taking me over here. She said, I don't know how to control them.
Love it. I love that. That's a great story. That is a great story.
So I know that you can't reveal too much about the surrogate because it's so full of plot twists. But I know that you just recently were at a book club.
Yes.
So could you just tell us a little bit about that experience? And
Oh, yeah. I love doing book clubs. And with Zoom, I can do a book club from anywhere in the world. And if you go to my website, there are some questions that will help any book club get started if that's something they're interested in doing, or they can just, make up their own questions or just have me talk about my writing process. But a lot of the questions are asked the same question you asked about my writing process, but also where did I get the idea for the surrogate? And I'll tell you how that happened.
yeah, tell
Um,
us.
as you know, I was a school principal in an elementary school not far from Newtown, Connecticut, at the when I heard about Sandy Hook, what had happened at Sandy Hook and that horrible, horrible tragedy. And I just to this day I can't get over that. I can't get over that that happened to 21st graders and six educators. And in my mind, I kept wrestling with what could what could an educator do? What could how could we stop this from happening again? What is within our control? And so the premise of the surrogate, my book, is it's about a teacher, really, a nurturing teacher who wants to make a difference in her life. And she wants to help a young boy. He's 16 in my book. His name is Martin. And she wants to help Martin, um, who's a would-be, he has access to guns in his house, really easy access to guns. And she wants to stop him. She wants to stop the next American tragedy. So without giving away plot points, that that's her goal, to help Martin, to stop Martin. She's an educator, so she uses literature and she uses, her nurturing and her cooking and whatever it can take to help this young boy. Um, I'm not sure. I forgot what your question was, but I went off on a tangent.
No, actually it was wonderful. It wasn't a tangent at all, and so timely.
Yeah.
We just had in the paper about the Sandy Hook family, some of them getting compensation, and what a huge step! What
It's
a
enormous.
huge step!
It's enormous because it talks about, I mean, really, it's not about the money for these families, and they'll be the first to say that. It's about the advertisement. They went after in their ad the company that made these
This
weapons of
8K,
war.
yeah,
Yeah, weapons of war. They went after young boys, young men who were in a way troubled, thinking, oh, this isn't masculine, this is manly, this is cool. So, hopefully it will stop other companies from promoting their weapons of war in such a destructive and terrifying way.
and you also said something so powerful, Lynn. You said that Martin, like the Sandy Hook young man, had access to
Yes.
guns.
Access.
And I know that that's an important thing to you about
Very important.
stopping access.
I think it's the most obvious next step to have laws in place. I know in some places there are laws that if you don't lock up your guns and someone in your household, either by accident, a toddler gets a hold of your gun and hurts somebody, or suicide deaths occur because there's easy access. I mean, there's a way not to fix it and make it perfect, but certainly reduce the number of accidents and murders and deaths by
Just by
firearms.
locking them up, just
Lock 'em up.
locking up your books. Yes. So you might think, audience, as you're listening to this, it's a message book. But the thing is, it's a suspense thriller.
It's a thriller. It's a thriller. Definitely.
You will love it because the page turning suspense thriller. One of the things we like to do before we leave everybody and tell them how they can find you is to talk about something that you're either reading right now, it's sitting on your nightstand, or maybe it's something you've read recently, or maybe it's just a loved book that you could recommend to our audience.
Well, you're going to ask me what I'm writing too. So what
Yes.
what I'm reading is I have a ton of books from the library and a few of my own on my bedside that are novels in verse. They're middle grade. They're written for kids 8 to 12. And because I'm reading a lot of these books because I happen to be writing a novel in verse. It's historical fiction, and it takes place in the school and in the town where I was a principal. And it's based on a true story. It's based on the flood of 1955 that really hit Unionville, Connecticut hard. That's Farmington, part of Farmington, Connecticut, the Farmington River. The flood was devastating. And it's about a young girl who had polio. She uses crutches. And I've spent the past few months interviewing people who were there, and just really learning a ton about the time and the flood that they survived. Not everybody did survive. So one book that I loved, and whether you're in middle grade or high school or you're an adult, it's a beautiful, beautiful book by a woman named Karen Hesse, Hesse, and it's called Out of the Dust. And it's about the Dust Bowl. It's historical fiction, poetry. It's gut-wrenching gorgeous. So I would recommend it. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Have you read Hannah, what's her last name? And she wrote this amazing book about the Dust Bowl.
The Four Winds, I think it's called.
The Four Winds.
I loved that book.
Kristen Hannah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I thought so too. It was beautiful.
And when you read this book about it now, this historical fiction about it now for younger people, were there similarities or?
Yes, it's about a young girl and her parents, and it just, both of those books, you feel like you're there. And I'd read about I'd read about that time in history and the Dust Bowl and heard songs about it, but reading a book about it just you feel like you're there. You can really suffer with the characters. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And your young lady in your work in progress who has polio, was that from somebody you know or something in your life?
No, but no, it's not. But I found a woman who I interviewed extensively. She's 81 now. She's just spitfire. And she told me stories that I incorporated into the book, stories about, I asked her if she was teased, and she'd say, nobody would dare tease me. I'd take my crutch and knock them, and of course I had to use that. But she spent a year of her life in a children's ward, not far from here in Connecticut, away from her parents who could only visit on weekends, 4 years old, in a ward filled with children in these crib-like beds on wheels, and some in iron lungs, and just learning all about polio and talking about vaccines, and the importance of that vaccine. And they had typhoid vaccines because of the typhoid epidemic. So there just feels like there's so many parallels to our world today with climate change, flooding, and
yes,
there's just a lot of parallels. And I thought children would be interested to know more and to relate to that story.
I'm old and I'm interested.
Yeah.
So where can our watchers, listeners, how can they find you and stay in touch with you and get a hold of the Surrogate, but also know when the new book's coming out?
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I do have a webpage, and it's, I think you're going to put it out there, right? But it's
I will. but you should tell us.
It's
them.
www.lynnkatzauthor.com. Really easy. Lynn Katz, my name, author.com. And there will be, there's the first chapter. You can read the first chapter of The Surrogate right on my
excellent.
webpage. You can also, there are links to organizations that promote gun safety.
Mhm.
And there'll be more information about my upcoming book as well. So
Excellent. And is there a way to contact you on your webpage?
yes, there's a form. It'll go right into my email. You can contact me if you want to have a book club. I love doing book clubs. I'd be thrilled to do it.
And the questions, the book club questions, are also on her
On
webpage.
my webpage. On my webpage, yes.
So thank you all for watching today. Thank you for listening. I hope you will look up The Surrogate. I hope you'll buy it, read it. You can borrow it from the library too, but we so appreciate it when you buy it. It helps us. It helps us both. And we'll see you next time. What are you reading? What are you writing?